Today, I thought I'd take the opportunity to consider art and design and see what the cards think themselves, a product of art and design. What is a totally unique approach to art and design that we can generate today with the Life's Potluck Buffet cards? So stick around for today's episode. I'm John Paulas. Thanks for joining me. On today's episode of Life's Potluck Buffet, as I mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about art and design. And I'm going to use the cards to come up with a prompt that will then help us develop a totally unique approach to art and design that we can start implementing today. So get ready. And if you have the cards at home, you can try this yourself and see what your approach to art and design is. If not, take this trip along with me to understand what a possible approach is that you might want to take. All right, here we go. So, as you know, I have a very ritualistic and specific way of shuffling the cards, where I do a kind of little one-handed shuffle 3 times, grabbing things in my left hand, holding the cards in the right hand, grabbing the top and the bottom of the left hand, and shuffling them a little bit. And then what I do is I cut the deck. I hold the deck away from the microphone because it gets really loud when you shuffle. Okay. And then I split the deck, or cut the deck. Split it, I guess that would be sawing it in half. And then I take the top card. And here's the top card. Oh, this is going to be a really unique approach to art and design. Treat others' work as their possessions is the card that I drew. Card 39 in the Life's Potluck Buffet deck. It's got the magenta noodles on it. And now let me read the card here and see if we can come up with an approach based on this card. We all have our jobs to do, and nothing's more annoying than when, unasked, we take it upon ourselves to do someone else's work. True. By doing so, we are stealing away a little bit of accomplishment from that person. It's like having an annoying tennis doubles partner who poaches all your shots. Like when you know this concept? Yeah. Where you're playing, say, tennis, and a shot is headed towards your partner that you're playing with, and you stick your racket out to get it instead of them. Be considerate and let others do their work. Now consider ways you have micro-poached. As you recall, that's a Life's Potluck Buffet vocabulary word, micro-poaching. Micro-poach someone else's work in any context. Figure out the real reason you prefer to do their work rather than your own. Okay, well, this is a very fitting card for a totally unique approach to art and design because it's saying that we should avoid being derivative and, taking other people's styles, I guess, of art and making them our own. That doesn't mean, I guess, that, you can't be inspired by people, but I think this card is telling us, in the case of art and design, to respect the styles of other artists and not to kind of just derive work from them, because that's really, it's kind of inconsiderate, isn't it? So what does that mean for our style here? Consider ways you have micro-poached someone else's work. That's interesting. I guess that's thinking of ways in which our art and design work has been derivative of others' work. And so finding that out, I think, is key, because then you're understanding your art and design technique, like being really aware and just really mindful of where your influences are in art and design. To be real, we all live in the world So coming up with something that is like, uh, you know, um, never has no influences whatsoever. We don't live in a vacuum, right? So coming up with something that has no influences whatsoever is not possible or even probably desirable, right? But what I think the card is pointing us to is that other people have their styles, and we shouldn't seek to kind of take that away from them. And you can see how that works with art, because on this podcast, I've talked a lot about Salvador Dali and his attitude towards life on that game show that one day in January of 1957. And that is important to this because, you know, think about Salvador Dali's totally, totally unique approach to art. When you see his work, you say, "Oh, that's Salvador Dali." And if someone else produced something that looked like that, you'd say, "Oh, is this Salvador Dali?" And you say, "Oh, no, it's not. This is somebody else." And then they say, "Oh, well, that's it's weird because that looks just like Salvador Dali." Right? When you get too close to another style, now that's influenced you, and you start to like reproduce it. That's not a very unique approach, right? So when we think about these unique approaches, thinking about how we can avoid that kind of micro poaching of others' styles. Maybe micro poaching, maybe since that's our word here, maybe micro poach has something to do with what the style is, but we're saying we don't want to micro poach. So it would be something like non micro poaching. Yeah. Anti-micropoaching? There you go. That's going to be our approach to art and design that we can think about is anti-micropoaching. And so the idea is to create to take things that you would normally, and this is how to do a new design style as well. Take tendencies that are so ingrained that we kind of repeat them. Find out where we're getting those tendencies from, what art is influencing us in those tendencies, and then do the opposite. So if you have very kind of straight lines and clean, very geometrically clear shapes, say like in Life's Potluck Buffet in the cards, where the dots are really, they are perfect circles, or the 7-pointed star is, a perfectly symmetrical along various axes, or however you want to think about that. Or the pot, which is pretty clean in terms of its lines. Although I have to say that it's not actually perfectly symmetrical. There are elements, especially in the handles and stuff, that where there's like a slight asymmetry there, purposefully. So I feel like that's some way in which I've incorporated this kind of approach into the art and design of Life's Potluck Buffet. But let's say taking that and maybe not having perfect circles, right? So that would be a change in the style that we see here, and that would be a change in my style. So when we're thinking about totally unique approaches to art and design, and obviously we each have our own totally unique approach, let's do this new anti-micropoaching technique where we figure out what our influences are in our style and know, we're not like kind of repeating ourselves here. We know what our influences are in our style, and then we are going to mix it up a little bit, right? Not use those influences, do something different with them, so that when you look at that, instead of your painting or drawing or architecture or whatever you're doing, looking like something that people would say, oh, that looks just like so-and-so's work, right? Instead of that happening, what will happen is you'll create something that has all of the touches that say this is uniquely your own approach to art and design. So give that a shot and let me know what happens. And tune in tomorrow for the next episode of Life's Potluck Buffet. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.